what we've got to do, obviously, is pull our thoughts and pull our knowledge together to try and get the best out of what we've got.
Next stop, the South American continent and a rare day off. But back home, the demand for that back page photograph is as keen as ever. The management had a course in media relations before they left England.
It's not something I especially enjoy, but it's kind of regarded as an ever-increasing part of this job. So you just get on with it. You know, there's ever-increasing numbers of journalists and photographers who come with us these days on tours. So if you're struggling to come to terms with it, you're knackered, really. The hardest thing I've found is to keep all members of the touring party happy, particularly on an itinerary like this where there's not so much cricket outside the internationals, and we've got 17 players. It means 6 players are not playing cricket, and they're all players who you think are good players because you picked them in the first place, and you're all happy for them to play, but at the end of the day you can only pick 11 and you have to make a judgment, and sometimes that judgment's just an instinctive thing, and it's very difficult to explain to players why they're not playing. And that's what I've found the hardest thing so far. This is the most important part of the tour for me, because if we can get back into it in either Guyana or Trinidad, that will give us a lift for the last 2 games. But obviously if we don't do so well in these 2, and we're going to where the West Indies are traditionally strong, in Barbados and Antigua, it's going to be very difficult to kind of pull it back there. So naturally I hope that we play well here, and Trinidad's a result wicket and anything could happen there.
Those fateful words would come back to haunt him, but for now, before the second test, there were mounting worries about the form of England's most experienced batsman, Robin Smith. He rediscovered his touch, making 84 as he and Atherton put on 171 after England had been in terrible trouble at 2 for 2. Atherton led the way with 144.
I'm the type of person who plays better, and I don't think so much about my batting. In the past, when you've not got the worries of captaincy, it's easy to get too focused on your own game and start worrying too much about your own form, and perhaps the other responsibilities that were there with captaincy meant that really I just went out and batted without thinking too much about it, and I find that helped. And also as a captain you feel a responsibility for your own team, and perhaps that increases the levels of your performance.
It was Atherton's most significant innings for England so far. Much of the media attention before the match had been focused on Mark Ramprakash. He had been called in to play his first test match overseas, filling the unenviable number 3 position in the country of his father's birth. Ramprakash was keen to see as much of Guyana as he could.
It's a very emotional moment for me because I still have family here in Guyana, and you know, my father left over 30 years ago to come to England, and for us to be back, well, for my father to be back here watching me play, you know, it's hard to explain really. It just means a hell of a lot.
Sadly, there was a sting in the tail as Ramprakash fell to his 6th ball for just 2. Great disappointment for Ramprakash Sr., but it wasn't such a wasted trip for Chris Lewis's family. They had travelled from London to watch the enigmatic England all-rounder return to the country of his birth.
Oh, brilliant catch, Chris Lewis.
Meanwhile, England's bowlers were still struggling to adapt to the West Indian conditions. Jeff Arnold, the specialist coach who had just been sacked from his position at Surrey, was flown in to rectify the problem. Having a fully equipped television studio on site was a tremendous help as the players were able to see their faults for themselves, and Angus Fraser would eventually take full advantage of Arnold's advice and the modern technology.
In the West Indies, I think you have to learn to bowl a line. It is so important. I mean, that's the difference between Ambrose and all the other fast bowlers in the world. You have to play every time. And, you know, then suddenly he uses his height, his rhythm, and the ball kicks from a good length and he gets another wicket. I think that's what you have to do. You have to learn to bowl a line, slip the ball, stop pounding it on an innocuous surface.
Torrential rain has ruined Guyana's reputation as a test venue, but the enthusiasm amongst the locals hasn't been dampened. Brian Lara gave them a memorable exhibition of his very special talent, making 167 as once again the West Indian batsman took control. Jimmy Adams, who'd been stranded on 95 in Jamaica, managed to complete his first test century and give Nottinghamshire's supporters something to look forward to this summer. Test selection is a ticklish subject in the Caribbean, where the many countries fiercely campaign for their own cricketers. Shivnarine Chandapol's family turned out in force to support the 19-year-old whose selection had prompted accusations of tokenism.
Well, it's a nice time to come into a side when they're winning, when they've got plenty of confident players around them, and when, you know, he's in fairly good form himself. Sort of, in stark contrast to the situations that some of the England players at a young age find themselves coming in. But there's nothing you can do about that. You have to bring young players in sometimes, and if the side isn't winning, they have to come in a losing situation and take it upon themselves to try and turn that round.
Chandapol made 62, while his opposing captain on the recent under-19 tour of England didn't play one first-class match last summer. The West Indies lead by 234.
And bowled it is, and that's his 200th test wicket.
After his century in the first innings, Atherton's fourth ball duck put the skids under his team as Kirtley Ambrose sniffed the chance of victory. Robin Smith was also unable to repeat his heroics of the first day. When it was wrapped up by Courtney Walsh, the West Indies had won by an innings and 44 runs to go 2 up in the series with 3 still to play.
With